So let's look at some quadratic equations. That's what that is right there. This is a quadratic equation. Now it's quadratic because the highest exponent's what?
2.
Squared, right. So the highest exponent in a problem tells you how many possible solutions you could get. For example, let's say I wrote x to the 7th plus 5x equals 0. What's the highest exponent in this problem? 7. So the maximum number of solutions I could get on this is what? 7. I could possibly have 7 solutions in this case. Okay? Now, if you look at the problem we're working on right here, what's the highest exponent? 2. So what we're saying is there's a maximum of how many? 2. Now, that doesn't mean that there are 2. It just means that there's a possible number of 2. Now, let's look real quick at just a regular equation. We did this year. Let's say I had 2x plus 5 equals 10, right? What's the highest exponent in that problem? 1, right? 1. You see that? 1. So what's the maximum number of solutions there could be in that problem? 1. And so the way we would solve that is subtract 5 from both sides, right? And so you'd have 2x equals 5. And then what would you do to solve for x? You divide 2 on both sides, and so x equals 5 halves, which if you type in a calculator is 2.5, right? So there was one solution because the highest exponent was what? 1. But on the problem we have up there, there's more than one. There could possibly be more than one solution, right? What's the highest exponent on this problem? 2. Okay, now the easiest way to solve a quadratic equation like this one, this is now an equation because there's a what? An equal sign. All right, so the easiest way to solve a quadratic equation is to first factor it. Y'all say factor.
Factor.
Now, what do you see that goes into both of these? X does. So I can factor an x out. So if I factor x out, what does that leave me inside the parentheses? Yeah, since we factored the x out, we're essentially dividing that by x, and we're dividing that by x, aren't we? So x squared divided by x is just x, and 7x divided by x is just 7, isn't it? And that's equal to 0. And now when you have a quadratic equation that you have fully factored, all you have to do is take this portion and set it equal to 0, and this portion and set it equal to 0. In other words, you split it into 2 equations. So I'm going to write it as x equals 0. So I took this and set it equal to 0. And then I'm going to take the x plus 7 and also set it equal to what? 0. Now this one's already solved. X equals 0, right? But if I subtract 7 on both sides here, I get x equals what? And so there are your 2 solutions. X equals 0 is a solution, and x equals -7 is a solution. So you can see on the screen that I graphed the equation we were working with. Okay, x squared plus 7x, right? And what you notice is it creates a parabola. Now, a parabola is this U shape. Do y'all see this U shape I've got here? You see that U shape? It's a parabola. Now, here's what you need to understand. The solutions to any equation are where it crosses the what? X-axis. How many times does this cross the x-axis? 2, because how many solutions were there? And look where it crossed the x-axis. It crossed it at 0 right there, and it crossed it at 7 right there, didn't it? So your solutions were x equals 7 and x equals 0. You need to always remember the solutions to any equation, if you're looking at the graph, are where the graph crosses the what? Say x-axis.